All right, we're going to get rolling because we have a limited amount of time. I am so excited to be able to share this moment with you because we've been here talking about sales and what we need to do in the sales process and how to win over those potential residents to become residents. And everything that we've talked about all culminates right here today. All that you've learned, all the skills, the ideas, and everything else are going to be shared with you right here today, and this is why we do it, so that we can have fabulous looking residents like this in our communities. That's right. This wonderful looking group of young people here are from Edgemere, and Edgemere, you can see a picture of it here on the screen. Edgemere is the first community sponsored by SQLC. It's their flagship community, opened in 2001. It's the only life care in Dallas. It's in a beautiful area of North Dallas, offering 4 levels of health care for life. So that's where these great folks come from. Vanessa, you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll let them kind of go down the row and tell us a little bit about themselves.
Sure. I'm Vanessa Curtwright. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm Vanessa Curtwright. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Edgemere, and I am very thrilled to be able to present our wonderful residents. And I'd like them to just go down, just introduce yourself, say how long you've been at Edgemere, and, you know, anything you'd like to share.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Tom DeWeese. I've lived at Edgemere for 10 years and going on 11. And my wife and I moved there in 2004, early in 2004, and we picked Edgemere over any other place because it was head and shoulders better than any other place that we looked at.
Okay.
We moved there because her health was beginning to fail, and I figured that we needed to be someplace where they would take care of her if something happened to me. And it didn't work out that way, but anyhow, I've enjoyed living at Edgemere. And Mary?
My name is Mary Hammett, and I have been at Edgemere for 2 years. I came because my friend in Arizona told me to come and see Edgemere. And she kept on until I finally went and bought the same day. Vanessa came in on a Saturday, and I looked and I thought, I can get well here. And I did.
How many of you would love for Mary to walk into your community?
Right?
I'm Ben Alvord. I've lived at Edgemere for 5 years. I moved to Edgemere after my wife died. We had no children in this area, and I figured somewhere in the next 10 or 15 years I'll need help, and Edgemere has been a delightful choice.
I'm Bedale Langdale from Houston. I moved to the Edgemere, will be 1 year on the 16th of this month. And the reason that I moved here is I always said when I was in my 85th year, I was going to go to a retirement home. And my son, all my children were with me for my birthday over Thanksgiving. And the next day, he said, I want to come by and see you before I go back to Dallas. And he had an application to Edgemere. So not only did he make me move very quickly, but I am very happy. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and my son is only 4 minutes from me.
So how many of you want Vidal?
My name is John Stallings. I've been at Edgemere, be 2 years in September. Like most old people, I thought I was indestructible and would never need such a facility, but I woke up in a hospital with pneumonia, and my daughter said, Daddy, don't you think it's time you sold your house? And I said, let's sell it. And they were greatly relieved, and I didn't shop because I had visited Edgemere numerous times to have dinner with friends. So I went to Edgemere, and fortunately they had a facility that I could, well, I couldn't afford it, but I bought it anyway. And I've been tremendously happy there.
He's also my neighbor. My name is Mary Ann Luderman. I had a beautiful home, decided to sell it. I'd been a widow for 7 years, and I had a friend who lived across the street from Edgemere in the condominiums.
Condos, yeah.
And so I knew it was there, and I had seen the grounds, and it's beautiful, and I thought, well, you know, that sounds like a good place. But my son said, Mom, you've got to get out of that high rise and meet somebody your own age. So I lived in the high rise for 2 years and then decided, well, he's right. So I said, let's go. We'll go see. Walked in, good-looking young man.
Graham.
Helped me. Got a hold of me, and he showed me around. And probably within an hour, I signed the papers and gave him a check. And unfortunately, he's not there anymore. But Edgemere, I think, offers everything that we could ever want or ever need for our later years. I've never been happier. I didn't think I could be happy in a one-bedroom apartment, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything, and I'm there for life.
Oh.
I'm Bob Middleton, and I've been in Edgemere almost 2 years now. And I had great parents, and I grew up in Missouri, and one of the very best things they did for me is they moved into what was considered a tri-level care situation when they were still capable of doing that. And as years came by, they needed the facility, and they migrated, both of them, to the hospital and back. My dad went first, and during the time when he was not able to take care of himself, he left his apartment or left their apartment, came back, and so it just worked perfectly for them. So it had been my intention to look for some place like that if I ever got old enough, and I wasn't quite old enough, I didn't think, but I was involuntarily separated from my wife, and I thought, well, now what? And I didn't have a house, and I had to have a place to live, and I looked at a couple of places and that to rent, and because I didn't want to buy, and everybody was a lot younger than I was, and they had a lot of loud music, and there were a lot of things that didn't seem to be the sort of thing I was looking for. I knew about Edgemere because I was familiar with the neighborhood, and I wanted to be in that neighborhood, so I checked it out, and I happened to come in contact with a young lady who'd been there from the beginning, explaining how Edgemere worked. I investigated it very seriously, financially, and I have a brother who has a PhD in economics. He helped, and I figured out that's the place for me, and it turns out it was a great decision. Thank you.
We're John and Marie Childs. When we approached 80, Marie told me, John, I think it's about time we give us this house and your yard work and all the things that you do. I retired early, so I'd been retired about 18 or 20 years, and so it was time for us to go while we were still able to get around and mobile. So we decided that we'd sell our house and make the move. I guess my recommendation for Edgemere is, the things that decided us most on Edgemere was really location. It's wonderfully situated in the area where we live, so the location was a important factor with us. Also, we like the architecture and the facility itself looked good. And the thing that interested me also was at Edgemere, we've been there 5 years, a little more than 5 years, but Edgemere had been open for 5 years prior to that time, and it was about 90% occupied. So I was confident that it was a situation that was financially sound, and we were safe to give up our home and move there. There's a lot more to say prior to our moving, but I'll let Marie tell that story.
I'm sold after hearing all this.
Right.
But we feel blessed that we're in the right place at the right time. We don't have a family, so John's story, to add a little to John's story, he said, no one in my family has ever lived to be 80. And he was approaching 80, and I said, John, we've got to do it now because I can't do it alone. And he's 85, and at the end of the month, I'll be 88. But there are things about Edgemere, the people, the food, and raised toilet seats. Those are the things I love best.
I might add that we did, prior to our moving to Edgemere, we looked at 4 or 5 retirement communities in Dallas, some that had been completed, some that were under planned and under construction. So we looked at a lot of those. We had friends at Edgemere, so we were invited to have dinner at Edgemere quite frequently, so we were familiar with it. So we look back at those years that we were prior to moving to Edgemere, and we are satisfied that we picked the very best place in Dallas, and we've been, as everybody said, we've been very, very, very pleased and very happy at Edgemere.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to just ask a few questions here and there, so we'll take turns. We'll start with Ms. Childs, since you have the microphone. Now that you're at Edgemere, what would you say you like the best?
I just answered that.
I know, the food. But I mean, okay, I'll ask it this way. What is different? What do you find the biggest difference about living in your house and in the community? And how does, what do you like?
Well, I used to wake up every morning and say, what are we going to have for dinner? And I don't have to do that anymore. And I tell you, that is the greatest thing in the world. And John said, well, what are we going to have for dinner? And I say, well, look at the menu.
Okay. Another question. You said that you did look at several places. Was there anything defining that made you choose Edgemere and specifically, or was it just overall?
Well, I guess it could be overall, but as I mentioned earlier, Edgemere was established, and we knew we didn't have to guess at what was going to happen when it was completed. It was there, and also we knew people at Edgemere, and they were very pleased with what was there, and so I guess the fact that we could see what was there and know that it was what we were looking for.
Okay. That's great. All right. We'll go down back to Mr. Middleton now and ask a question. How long were you in the process of looking for retirement living, and was there any part that was more meaningful to you, such as coming to events, phone calls, cards in the mail? Anything in particular?
Well, actually, I've been looking for a place to eventually retire for ever since my parents found their place, and that's been a long time. And so I actually knew about Edgemere because a client and a very dear friend lived there, and I'd been there several times. Also, there were other people who were in the field, other businesses. We looked at Hyatt was going to build a facility in Dallas, and so we got on their list. We got on Edgemere's list. We came there, and my wife was interested, but not, as it turned out, we didn't do things together. And so we were just waiting for the time, and Edgemere was clearly the best organized. And when I really got into it, the financial structure, the business arrangement, consistent with what John was talking about, it was already there, did have a track record. Those were the things that were clearly the most important to me.
Great. Thank you. Do you want to ask?
Yeah,
Go down.
you know, as I told you at the beginning, you know, this is a room full of salespeople sitting here in front of you. So what I think would be interesting for them to hear is what part of the sales process was most meaningful to you. The very beginning, was it something that happened in the middle, something that happened at the end to help you make your decision? And I'd kind of like to hear that from several of you. So if you just want to, you know, share some answers, take turns sharing the microphone, I think that they would like to hear what made the difference for you in the sales process.
Well, I'll just throw in right here that the thing that made the most difference to me is intelligent information and not any hard sell about, well, it's about too late, you know, you need to make this decision. Whatever questions I asked were responded to, and the information was, when I checked it out, which was what I did do, it all turned out to be exactly as represented, and that gave me confidence that I could trust in the situation.
Good. Thank you.
Good. Someone else?
Well, when I walked in and saw the grounds and all the beauty that Edgemere has, I had left all of that and had gone to a high-rise for 2 years, and I missed it. But when I walked into Edgemere, it was just like home again. They were, I was excited about the exercise program because I wanted to exercise every day. I was excited about the activity program. They had everything that I could ever want. The only thing I miss is I like to cook. And they provide so much food, there's no reason for me to cook 30 pounds later. But I think most of all, the fact that I'm with people my age. And it's like a big family. I love it there, and everyone is so kind and so friendly and really happy to have you there. And I think that's important, to really let people know that that they're part of you, and we are. We have our own building, which is great. We know everybody that's on our floor. Everybody's friendly. They get together. We have all the beautiful activities, and the management is amazing. I was in that type of business, management, development, and believe me, I know good management, and this one has it.
One of the things that may be...
I can't hear.
Hang on.
May be...
I can't hear.
Okay.
Okay. One of the things that may be of interest to the marketing people here is that when we decided to move to Edgemere, of course we had to sell our home, think about getting rid of a lot of our furniture and so we need a little lead time. And I don't know, it was several months, but there was no pressure at all put on us. We had plenty of time to make arrangements to leave our house, sell our house, and then move into Edgemere several months later. So there was no pressure to move once we made our decision, and we appreciated that very much.
Good. That's good to know. Okay. Mr. Stallings, did you want to say?
Talk about what? Well, I'll talk about Edgemere. I didn't really shop it, as I told you earlier. I was there because I had met friends who had chosen Edgemere after much shopping. And I was very fortunate. When I made a decision to sell my house, I sold it the next day.
Nice.
I went to Edgemere, and I think I made the decision to buy the day after I visited Monica and the other salespeople at Edgemere. It sold itself, and I loved my apartment. I love all the facilities. I particularly like the parking. It's so handy and convenient. The location is just unsurpassed in Dallas. The major shopping center in the city is just 3 blocks away, and it's just wonderful, all aspects of it. Thank you.
Okay. I think, do you want to ask another question? Or?
I would like for someone to pass the microphone down to Ms. Hammett. One of the things that you shared when we were meeting at Edgemere was kind of how you felt in your home. And I'd just like for you to tell us a little bit about that. Do you remember what you said to me?
Not exactly, but when my husband passed away, I tried to stay in my home, and I lived there for about a year and a half. And I just got sicker and sicker, and I went blind from stress. And believe me, stress can do a lot to you. So my friend from Arizona had looked at Edgemere up one side and down the other because their son lived here. They were going to move here to be with their son, but at the last minute her husband said, I'm not leaving my friends of 45 years to go get a 1-week visit out of my son, so we're going to stay in Arizona. So when I went blind, she kept calling me every day. She says, Mary, have you been to Edgemere? I said, no. Every day, have you been to Edgemere? I said, no. Finally, she said, Mary, when are you going to Edgemere? I said, will you shut up if I go to Edgemere? She says, no, not till you tell me when. I says, okay, I'll get my son to drive me this weekend. My son drove me. When I walked in and bluffed my way through, the appeal of the place, just walking in, sells it. It was peaceful, but there were people there, and I wasn't good living alone. So I saw 2 apartments, chose one, and started to recuperate. And they did everything they could for me. I couldn't drive very well, although I still tried. I'm very, very stubborn. And they will do anything for you at Edgemere to make anything easier. So Kevin, my maintenance man that works with me there, he wrapped the pole that I parked by with carpet so that I would quit damaging my car. Finally, I wised up and got a smaller car, and now I don't need carpet. Finally, I regained my eyesight. I have regained my health completely. I still work part-time. I still manage the properties we own. And I live a very full life in and out of Edgemere because I'm gone so much working and doing things. Some people think I only live there at night. So it is absolutely a wonderful place. You can be in your apartment, have your alone time, or you can walk to the lobby and be among friends. And that is worth $1 million when you lose a spouse.
So if you've ever wondered, if you've ever wondered if what you do really provides value for people, there's a great example right there.
Mr. DeWeese, tell us how it has been. You've been here the longest, I think. Well, Ty, you're 10 years? You've been, okay, you're 8, you're 6. Okay, so you've been here the longest. So what would you say, how has your life changed since being in your house? Let's say you had been in your house all this time versus being at Edgemere. What do you think are the benefits, or what do you see as different, or the best benefits?
Well, I don't have to worry about keeping up things, paying to have the air conditioner fixed, or, calling a plumber or anything like that. If something goes wrong, I just call the front desk and they send somebody and it gets fixed. Mm-hmm. Even light bulbs. they send light bulbs up. And it's really a pretty carefree life. But I had, it's so carefree that you don't have to plan meals and shop for it or cook it or anything. I've had to find out something to do, so I've started volunteering at Presbyterian Hospital.
Good. Great. Okay.
Is that what you want?
Perfect,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
And then Mr. Albert, I know you're very involved in our fitness program at Edgemere, correct?
Yes.
So why don't we talk about that a little bit, kind of how that fits in your life?
In my old neighborhood, I went to the Town North Y. I went to the Town North Y. Thank you. And it's a heck of a lot easier to walk downstairs or go downstairs. And we have cardio this morning. They have 2 levels of exercise program, cardio, a little bit more strenuous, and chair exercises. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have 2 sessions of water aerobics. On Saturday, they have a balance class. On, whatever. It's a heck of a lot easier to do it at home than it is to run around and find a Y or gym or whatever. Mm-hmm. To go back to what marketing, it took my wife and I talked with Nancy perhaps 8 years before we moved. It takes a heck of a lot of patience, and Nancy provided a lot of patience before we got there. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thanks.
Mentioned is very important is security. You don't have to really worry about security, which is always a problem if you're living in a neighborhood, especially in suburbia, big city. And so we have no security concerns at all at Edgemere.
That's true. That is a good point. Mrs. Legdale, you're our newest, I think you're the newest resident here. But I see that you're very involved in many things. I see you everywhere, and now I hear you're involved in the Bottega store, in the managing group there. So how did you find it, being from Houston, getting involved in a community where you probably didn't know that many people, right?
Well, actually...
You knew a few people.
I lived in a high-rise in Houston, and one of my best friends moved to the Edgemere 6 years ago. And anyway, when I would come and visit my son, she always said that she would invite me over and show me around Edgemere. And she knew we were the same age, so she knew that I was going to be approaching that 85th year, and she wanted me to move to the Edgemere. And we were involved in Houston and various things, and when she came to the Edgemere, we had a Mahjong group in Houston, and so when she left, we gave her a mahjong game, and she started a mahjong group. So of course, when I came, well, I immediately was involved with the mahjong group, and then I'm involved in all of the activities that I love physical exercise, so I like to exercise, so I like all of that and sign up for different things. And it's just, there's a beautiful swimming pool, and you need someone in the pool with you. And there's a man that's 96 years old that has to have a pool buddy. So we work out in the pool every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 45 minutes. And he said one day, he said, I don't know what we would do if either one of us needed any help. So far we haven't needed any.
That's good.
Audience questions?
Audience questions. Yeah, does anyone have?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'd like to open up for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, if you have any questions.
I'm going to bring the microphone back to you, though, so that...
Okay, these are the tough questions now.
I bet everyone in this room has at once had a resident come into your office and say, if I would have known it would have been like this, I would have moved sooner.
A lot of people say that.
What in the world can we do to make that happen?
One thing about moving is, I think the most important thing when people are making this change is that it has to be the right time for the person. They can't be urged by their family because the adjustment takes a little longer. But if you move in because you know this is the time and it's right, that's the secret of success as far as instant gratification. When I moved, I loved my house and everything in it, and I closed the door behind me and I said, now on to a new adventure. And if you can approach it that way, and so there's, as John said, they were very patient with us. We knew we needed to do it, and to do it in our time frame is very important. I've observed that over the years with our neighbors. And everyone is a neighbor at Edgemere. It is an incredible place. I've never been happier. My life has been charmed. I've been spoiled rotten, and this is the cherry on top.
Aww. Can we have another question, maybe?
I think Mary wanted to answer.
I remember asking a client once why she was postponing moving. She says, well, I can't leave all my memories. I have too many memories. And I looked at her and I says, your memories are right here. They'll always be with you. They take up very little space. Everything else is just things. And this will make your life so much more convenient. You won't have to cook, clean, wash the dishes, and you will be safe, and you'll feel safe. And she decided to buy that day, because you do bring your memories with you. You don't leave them behind.
Anyone have a question? Okay. I would like to follow up from this question, kind of following it for what she said, what can we do to help people make the decision sooner because they move in and say, I wish I'd done it sooner. What was the one thing that wasn't said to you, or maybe not the one thing, but what wasn't said to you in the sales process that should have been or could have been and would have helped you make a different decision sooner? Mr. Alvord, I think it was you that said it took 8 years to make the decision. Was there anything different that could have been said to make that happen faster?
Nothing in my case. my wife had put her mother in another facility and felt great loyalty to the other facility. And my wife was headed for a wheelchair, and it was just the other facility was inappropriate at Edgemere, where she could have a wheelchair, a scooter, whatever. But she couldn't break her loyalty. That was nothing that Edgemere could have done. After she left, I moved.
Anyone else? Is there anything that might have made you make the decision a little bit quicker if you had heard something in the sales process?
I think, for myself, had I known what kind of establishment this was earlier, which I didn't know, I think I would have probably moved a couple of years earlier than I did. I just didn't dream there was a place like this. And had I known, I would have gotten rid of that big house. And in fact, you know, all my children and grandchildren are very happy that I did that, because now they have furnished their homes.
This is probably true.
But the only bad thing about it is sometimes I'll lay in the bed and think, what happened to so-and-so? Where is it? Which one took it? You know, I don't know where my things are, but that's okay. That's okay. They're enjoying it. But yes, had I known that this was here, I would have been here much, much sooner.
I have a question. We spend a lot of time mailing things to you folks. Did you get anything in the mail from us during that time before you came in and decided to buy?
No. I did, and I think that was a big factor. I think that for some individuals, the fact that there really isn't very much competition, there's a lot of confusion among people. People don't want to think about it. They want to put it off. You know, it's like planning your funeral. You don't want to do that either, you know. And so it's kind of hard to break through that. But if once somebody does start to think about it, they find out they don't really know anything about it, and they can see other physical facilities they might think are the same, and the difference between a CCCA and some other thing what you might compare financially. That is a little bit technical, but for a lot of people, that's very, very important, and you don't see that any other place. If you read other people's ads and so on, they always talk about quality of life, and that's great. This morning as I walked out, I came by the desk and I said, my dishwasher's not working, and that'll be done when I get back, you know, and that's pretty nice. But this is the biggest financial decision that a lot of people have left to make in their life, and the technical aspect of it, and the fact that Nancy was willing to get down in the weeds with me and help me understand that, and even answer my brother-in-law's questions from an economics PhD. That's really important, and I think that mastering that aspect of it is got to be a base from which you start the process.
Terrific.
I do think it's important that couples who are contemplating this, I don't know how to do it I can't give you a suggestion, but that if they go together and establish their identity and have their friends to see and be established at a facility like this is so important, rather than waiting until you're a grieving widow or widower. It's to go with a positive attitude of we're here together. As I said, I don't know how you do that, but if that's something to point out to people, that it's just so fine to go and be in your natural state of being married and establish yourselves in the community, and rather than wait until you're changing lifestyle completely. Change is difficult for everyone, and to do it in this gradual way. We've seen it happen. People move in, and then one of them does pass away, but it makes a difference in how at home you are, because you are at home.
That's a good point.
I do have a question. Obviously, you bought into Edgemere because there's a health care benefit. I'm curious if any of you, if it was a priority for you to tour the healthcare side of the community.
When you were looking at Edgemere, did you want to, see the healthcare part?
No, I didn't.
Sorry, Mindy.
Well, it's beautiful as well.
I knew it was there if I needed it, and I just wasn't that anxious to get over there.
I have a question. How important was it for you to mix in a social setting with residents who already lived there when you were still a prospect?
That was the most important thing for me, because I lived in a high-rise for 2 years and hardly knew anyone there. And I was a very lonely, lonely woman. And just, in fact, it was the priority, was the people.
And actually, you've made a really close friend across the hall.
Yes, I have. Mr. Stallings.
and a really close friend next to her.
Yes. I think I surprised him.
She was faster than
We played poker one night. We have a poker night on Wednesday night, and I like to play poker, so I went in to play poker, and he was hardly even looked at me.
Wish I could hear.
That's what makes it nice.
This is videotaped. This is great.
Very important to us. One of the things that was very important to us, critical, was that this is life care. Life care. We looked at a number of places that were retirement communities and very attractive, but we were looking for a life care. My wife told me, I'll move once, but I'm not going to move twice. So life care, to be able to move to a place and not look forward to having to move again, was very important in our decision.
Yes. Well, good. Thank God, you guys have been great.
I would like to say something that is kind of weighing on my heart, because I want you to not be discouraged, because what you do is great, and you're going to have some real sad failures. Nancy will know there are two people right now that when I got to Edgemere, one of the things I thought would happen is I'd talk these two. They're both couples. I would talk them into coming to Edgemere, and I've had them there, and they know about it and everything, but they couldn't pull the trigger. And now both of the gentlemen are in very, one of them's worse than the other. He couldn't come to Edgemere now, and where he is now is not really very nice. It's very expensive, but it's not anything like what it would be like if she were in her apartment and going, down the hall to visit with him. And so when I go to see him, I might go see him once a week. If he were there at Edgemere, I'd probably see him every day or two. And they didn't make that decision, but that doesn't mean that you should be discouraged, because it's such a big decision. A lot of people won't make the right decision, and perhaps I wouldn't have made the right decision except for the fact that I saw how it worked for my parents. So don't give up. Keep trying.
I have a question about some of you have mentioned that your children drove you over. For those of you who have adult children, what was their reaction? Did you encounter any resistance to making the move to Edgemere from your children?
No resistance whatsoever. Mine was so relieved that oh, Mom, you're going to be taken care of. I mean, he could not wait for me to write that check.
Well, I think it's a relief to the children.
Oh, it's no question about it.
Yeah,
no question.
That they can come and visit you and not have to take care of you, because it can really get to be a job.
I used to hear from him every single day. I don't hear from him now, but maybe once a month. He knows I'm taken care of. I mean, it's a relief for him, the whole family. It's wonderful. In fact, he really encouraged me.
Well, I just want you to know, when you get to a place like Edgemere, you shed all your burdens and your problems, and you start realizing, I'm starting a new life. And you can do any darn thing you want to do or feel like doing, because the place will be there when you get back. So it's safety and being able to do what you want to do. In fact, I think I've had more fun this last 2 years with the availability to do what I wanted to do without asking someone, am I able to do this? Because like I said, I'm very stubborn. I just get up and go do it.
Well, I worked with Mrs. Langdale's son, who's a very busy, important man in Dallas, but he was so excited to have you come here, and he was paid so much diligence that they had the apartment sort of set. Well, you can tell the story. He was so happy to have his mother in town. He couldn't wait.
Well, as I said, he had the application to Edgemere the day after my 85th birthday, and left for Dallas the next day. And then the latter part of February, he called and said, Mom, we've found an apartment for you. And that night, I kept thinking about it, and I called him the next day, and I said, don't you think I should come and look at it? And he said, I think that's a good idea. Why don't you fly down this weekend? So I flew down and looked at it, and it was a lovely, lovely place. And it's on the ground floor overlooking the courtyard. And I went back to Houston and put my condo on the market, and he called the realtor to get pictures that she had taken of my condo, and then he got a designer to come in, and my furniture arrived on the 15th of May, and my youngest son that lives in Galveston drove down with the movers, and my daughter drove me down on the 16th, and when we arrived, every picture was hung, and there were monogrammed towels in the bathroom. So I guess you could say that all the children were very happy to have me move. And I've had numerous relatives and friends that just could not make the decision to go into a retirement home, and they waited too long. And it's a difficult decision to make. But it is one that I had started talking to the children about long before my 85th year. And my son, well, all of my children are so very, very proud that I have made this decision. And they're using me as an example to their friends' parents to be sure and make the decision, and let the parent make the decision, not the children.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. That many people they want to make their own decision, not their children. I hear that a lot. that, you know, people want to make their own decision. They don't want their children making their decisions. So that's a good reason to try to think about doing it maybe a little sooner than you might, because, you know, you want to be in a good place to make your own decisions. So, well, I think if there aren't any, one more, wow.
She has one too.
She has one
too. A lot of you said that your sales process was long. I know a lot of them were different, but I just wondered, what was that point, that kind of aha moment that this is the right decision and this is what I'm going to do? And if your sales counselor did anything to help you get to that point?
Anybody?
In my case, my wife died, so it became a very simple, easy decision. We had looked at a variety of places, and I hadn't persuaded her that Edgemere was right for us, so I knew where I wanted to go once she left.
Anybody else have an answer to that one? Was there an aha moment when you just said, this is the time, and why would that be?
Well, I didn't know it was the time. My friend told me. But when I saw it, and my son was with me, and he made one remark. He said, Mary, this will work for you. And he didn't encourage me, he just let me know that this was okay. And I really didn't know I needed to be there. But sometimes your friends have to tell you.
Well, we're down to just our last couple of minutes. I'd like to give you if you have one last thing you want to say that hasn't been said yet, I'd like to give you the opportunity to do that.
One thing you can advise people, and that is don't wait too long. You want to be there to live. You want to be there to enjoy it because it's a wonderful place. But don't wait too long. And again, how do you say that?
Anyone else, anything they want to say? Last comments? Closing remarks?
Well, I just know once you get off under the responsibilities, you wonder, why in the world didn't I get my husband here 3 or 4 years ago? And someone else could have helped me take care of him.
We thank you so much for coming and joining us. Aren't they fabulous?
Woo! Wow, you got a standing ovation.